Okay, so Disney added some new cartoons, I should say old cartoons, to Disney Plus, and 6 altogether, but 2 of them in particular I felt would be good topics for their own video. Donald's Nephews, released in 1937, and Donald's Cousin Gus, which was released in 1939, I believe. With these cartoons, the cool thing about them is, well, number one, they were released in what a lot of people call the golden age of Disney, which is the late 1930s to the early 40s. And this was a time when Disney animation quality was at its peak. So just for their art quality alone, these are worth watching. But more than that, these shorts also kind of expand the Donald Duck universe. See, this is in the beginning of Donald Duck's solo film career, before he was just a side character or a supporting character / co-star of Mickey Mouse. But in the mid-30s, he got his own series. And in these 2 cartoons, we see kind of the fleshing out of his own universe, where he gets his own family, he gets his own supporting characters. Obviously, here they start off with Donald Nephews, Huey, and Louie, who were actually created by the writer of the Donald Duck comic strip at the time. His name was Al Taliaferro. So he wanted family members for Donald, just as Mickey had his own nephews. Of course, they're a lot more obscure than Huey, Dewey, and Louie. But the point is, he asked for his own relatives and stuff, and the studio created this short with characters for him to use. Interestingly, Carl Barks was a story director on Donald Duck cartoons at the time, and he had a lot of involvement in this short. Well, in both shorts. But regarding Donald's Nephews, he actually had the idea to have them finish each other's sentences, which became kind of their character feature, I guess you could say. And in Donald's Cousin Gus, this is another Al Taliaferro character who was worked on by Carl Barks as well. Now, he didn't do most of the animation or whatever, he was the story person on these, and he was part of a team, so it's not just him. But definitely, you can see how he would jump from these 2 cartoons to creating his own world for Donald. Even besides the characters themselves, there are these small details that kind of introduce the idea of a bigger universe. At the beginning of both shorts, Donald gets a letter from his sister in Donald's Nephews and his aunt in the Gus short. So already we're seeing the beginnings of his extended family. And sure enough, these 2 characters, his aunt and his sister, would eventually be used in the comics and future cartoons. Again, this is all in the late 30s. It would be another couple of years before Carl Barks even wrote a comic strip on his own. It would be a couple more years still until he really went all out with Scrooge and all that supporting cast. All this attention is really one of the first signs that Donald is starting to eclipse Mickey as the main guy at Disney at this time. And really by the late 30s, we're in a kind of a transition where Mickey's appearing less and less, and his cartoons are getting more and more bland. So people are really paying more attention to the Donald cartoons. Like, let's be real here, Donald's is just a lot funnier than Mickey was. Now, of course, the nephews would appear in a lot more cartoons and a lot more comics after this short was released. And they got their own TV shows and, spin-offs and everything like that. They're pretty well entrenched in the Disney canon. Now, as for Gus Goose, he mainly had a comic career after this. And he did have a role on the House of Mouse TV show. And to his credit, he does have an expanded role in the comics. He is Carl Barks' creation, after all. So I wouldn't feel too bad for him. And as for the content of the cartoons themselves, they're really quite good. And they have similar storylines of relatives coming into Donald's life and kind of creating chaos in his house. I rewatched these a lot myself, and I consider them to be in the top half of Disney's short cartoon output in the golden age of Hollywood. So yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to say. These are 2 good shorts, and any way that you can watch them, just make sure that you do. And yeah, that's about it.